Lexie Hull just did what no one else in the Fever locker room dared to do. She spoke up, and in doing so, she might have cracked open the quietest, most uncomfortable truth in Indiana right now, that not everyone's vibing with the Caitlin Clark era. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Her Hoops, where we break down everything the mainstream won't say out loud. And today, we've got a storm brewing out of Indiana, because Lexie Hull, of all people, just gave the world a rare peek inside one of the most talked about locker rooms in all of sports.
It looked like Lexie Hull is opening up about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever locker room. Guys, for this
I think Caitlin should be the next to get a signature shoe.
And when she gets her shoe, can we expect you to be wearing it?
I will.
Lexie Hull is currently, you know what I'm saying, on a little media run. Lexie Hull is one of the biggest names this offseason. I feel like Lexie Hull is going to be getting a major payday in regards to her basketball abilities on the court. Now, with that being said, this article has been released, and it goes on to say Lexie gets real about Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever locker room, and off-season uncertainty.
And it was not the feel-good story the Fever's PR team probably hoped for. Now, on the surface, this looked like your typical off-season fluff piece. Sneakers, favorite pairs, a couple of laughs. But listen closely, and Lexie's words hit different. Her tone, her pauses, even the way she smiled through certain answers. It all sounded like someone who's trying to stay diplomatic while barely holding back what's really going on.
Out there.
Who on the Fever has the best sneaker game and who needs a little bit of help?
And who needs a little bit of help?
Yeah.
I would say, I think Caitlin has the best sneaker game.
Show them some love, bro. Because, like, if y'all don't know, like, I'm a big sneaker guy, bro. Like, I got a crazy shoe collection. But, you know, I try to leave my personal life out of it. I'm launching a third channel, JTL 3.0. That is exclusively going to be about my life because so many people keep copying me. And I think it might be, you know what I'm saying, just to add something different.
What's a
This
recent
Lexie
pair
here
that you picked up?
Ooh. Well,
When asked about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever locker room, Lexie gave the textbook answer. I love Indiana, the fans, the franchise. But it was that quiet pause after the sentence that told the real story. You could practically hear the unspoken but. Because let's be honest, the Fever locker room hasn't exactly been a sanctuary of peace this year. Cameras, storylines, pressure, and a rookie superstar who brought both fame and friction. Lexie's comments didn't come with name drops or accusations. She didn't need to. Her subtlety was the message.
No way, dude. She still got a black eye. Now, this came out yesterday. Hold on, let me see.
we're going to take these. I mean, I feel like I need to take, like, my most valuable ones. So these. But I'd probably
Travis, I
leave
got
these.
some of those.
No, I would take these. Yeah, these. We're running out. And then we're going to come back and get 3 more, and then, yeah.
Most sentimental sneaker in the room.
Memories.
And in a league where players usually keep everything in-house, this was the equivalent of tossing a spark into a room already full of smoke. So what exactly did Lexie say that's got fans whispering about locker room tension, hidden shade, and off-season uncertainty? Let's break down how one interview turned into the drama headline of the week. To really understand why Lexie Hull's comments hit the internet like a WNBA grenade, we've got to rewind back to when Caitlin Clark first walked into that Fever locker room, because from that moment,
This is very, very, very serious. The reason this is serious, not only just for the NBA, but for the WNBA as well. We know the WNBA is also being pretty much ran for the most part by Adam Silver and Kathy. You know, they kind of run this thing together.
everything changed. Before Clark arrived, the Indiana Fever were rebuilding quietly. No cameras at every practice. No ESPN headlines about the next face of women's basketball. It was just a group of women grinding for respect in a league that often looked the other way. Lexie Hull was part of that grind. She wasn't flashy, but she was steady, respected, and part of the team's foundation. Then came the Caitlin Clark effect. Suddenly, the Fever weren't just a team, they were a spectacle. Every post-game interview became about Clark. Every camera angle focused on her reactions, and every single teammate had to learn how to live in the glow or shadow of the league's newest megastar. Now, don't get it twisted. Nobody's saying Caitlin Clark asked for this chaos. She earned her spotlight fair and square. But in a locker room full of pros trying to build their own names, that kind of attention doesn't come without tension. So when Lexie started doing her off-season media rounds, interviews, sneaker chats, and podcast appearances, fans listened differently. Because Lexie wasn't just another player talking about shoes, she was the player who'd been there before the cameras showed up, and the one now hinting that fame might have changed more than just the team's attendance numbers. In her chat with Soul Retriever, Lexie was all smiles, talking sneakers, her fiancé, her favorite pairs. But then came that moment. She was asked who had the best sneaker game on the Fever. Her answer? Probably Caitlin, because she gets the most free shoes. Cue the internet explosion. To some, it sounded like a harmless joke. To others, it was a subtle jab, a carefully wrapped truth about favoritism and superstar perks that the rest of the roster doesn't enjoy. And that's where the story shifted, from a fun off-season chat to a quiet expose on the Fever's locker room imbalance. Let's break this down piece by piece, because what Lexie Hull didn't say might be louder than what she actually said. When a player goes on camera and says, "I've loved my years in Indiana. I love the people, the fans, the franchise," that sounds innocent, right? But longtime fans know that's the exact sentence players drop right before they leave. It's that classic PR goodbye, all love, no details. And then came her next line, "I'm unsure what's next." Boom! That's where everyone's eyebrows shot up. Because when a restricted free agent says that, it's not just about contracts, it's about comfort. It's about whether that locker room still feels like home.
Now, with that being said, Kathy pretty much is the figurehead of it all, but Adam Silver definitely was the guy that helped the WNBA land that $2 billion media rights deal. So when the NBA had went up for their new proposal, he made sure to include the WNBA in. So you guys might not notice a lot of the owners in the NBA own a bunch of the WNBA as well. Now, with that being said, this whole situation with this illegal gambling thing with Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and many other things has definitely took the sports world by storm. Me personally, I feel like this is going to be, if all of this information that has been released by the government is true, this is going to be the biggest sports scandal.
Caitlin Clark changed everything. Attendance, ratings, media coverage, sponsorships. She brought light to the Fever and the entire WNBA. But that light? It's blinding. It exposes every crack, every ego, every unspoken resentment. For veterans and grinders like Lexie, it's a tough adjustment. Imagine working your entire career for recognition, only for the cameras to show up because of someone else. It's not jealousy, it's displacement. You're still part of the story, but no longer the story. That's what Lexie's tone reflected, that quiet exhaustion. The fatigue of pretending everything's perfect when you know it's not. The effort to stay loyal while wondering if the spotlight will ever shine evenly again. Her quote, "I love it here, but I'm not sure what's next." That's not a throwaway line. That's emotional honesty from someone who's torn between loyalty and self-preservation. And the sneaker comment? That wasn't just about shoes. That was about favoritism. About how fame changes team dynamics. About how small privileges, free gear, constant praise, special treatment can quietly divide a locker room. Lexie didn't rant. She didn't lash out. She simply let her truth slip through in the smallest, most controlled way possible. And maybe that's the most powerful part. Because in a league where players are told to keep quiet, stay professional, and protect the brand, Lexie Hull reminded everyone that silence has limits. This wasn't rebellion, this was release. This isn't just about one player or one locker room anymore. This is about what happens when fame outgrows the framework of a league still finding its balance. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA, she shifted it. Overnight, the Fever went from being a rebuilding franchise to the most talked about team in women's basketball. ESPN cameras, sold-out arenas, VIP guests sitting courtside. That's never happened in Indiana before. The problem is, All that spotlight didn't just shine on Caitlin, it burned everything around her too.
In the world, ever. We're talking x-ray tables, see-through glasses, contacts, like it's the whole works, bruh. Players faking injuries. That's just a little bit. Now, this is where I feel like it's going to take place in the W. We know the Wall Street Journal released an article months ago about Caitlin Clark civil rights men violated, about them kind of targeting her, and people should be held accountable. Me personally, I feel like this is the first domino headed towards that direction, because I said it once and I said it again. Caitlin Clark is America's sweetheart. She's like Taylor Swift, bro. And me personally, this is when the pieces are going to get to fall, because let's say, God forbid, Adam Silver gets in some type of trouble.
Lexie Hull's comments tapped into something much deeper: the growing tension between superstar treatment and team equity. Because for every player cashing in on the new attention, there's another quietly wondering, where does that leave the rest of us? You can feel it league-wide. Players who've been grinding for years, who built the W before the hype, are suddenly being asked about one person in every interview. Reporters walk into a locker room full of talent and aim every mic at Clark. And while that's not her fault, it is the reality. Lexie's moment represents a cultural shift. The clash between the old WNBA, where players had to fight for relevance, and the new WNBA, where one rookie's presence is rewriting the playbook. It's progress, yes, but it's also pressure. And honestly, it's not unique to the Fever. You see it in every sport. When a phenom shows up, dynamics change. But in a smaller league like the WNBA, where every quote becomes national news, the ripples feel like earthquakes. What Lexie did, intentionally or not, was start a conversation the league needed. About how to celebrate superstars without isolating their teammates. About how to build culture around the hype, not beneath it. Because if this isn't handled right, the Fever could easily become the blueprint for how not to manage fame in a locker room. But if they face it, if they actually talk about it, they could become something much more. The first team to prove that fame and chemistry don't have to be enemies. Lexie Hull didn't just spark drama, she sparked reflection. At the end of the day, what Lexie Hull said wasn't earth-shattering, it was human. But in a league that's now living under a 24-hour microscope, humanity itself can sound like controversy. The truth is, Lexie didn't expose Caitlin Clark. She exposed the weight of fame. The kind that doesn't just land on the person at the center of it, but on everyone orbiting around her. Because let's be honest, Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the WNBA's headline machine. She earned her spot. She changed ratings, revived interest, and brought millions of new eyes to the league. That's not her fault. That's her impact. But when your presence becomes bigger than the game, there's collateral damage. And Lexie Hull, maybe unintentionally, gave a voice to everyone feeling that collateral. The one sitting just outside the camera frame, doing the dirty work, getting half the credit, and still showing up. That's the real story here. It's not drama, it's dynamics. It's what happens when success meets growing pains, when a team's chemistry starts getting rewritten by fame, money, and media narratives. Lexie's words, calm, deliberate, polite, weren't a shot at Caitlin. They were a signal flare, a quiet way of saying, hey, we love the spotlight, but don't forget the rest of us are here too. And you know what? She's right. The Fever don't win without Lexie Hull's defense, without her hustle, without her role player grit that keeps games competitive. The team isn't just Caitlin Clark. It's an entire roster of women who've been building something long before the world decided to start watching. So maybe this off-season moment isn't a scandal. Maybe it's an awakening, a reminder that every dynasty starts with tension and every transformation comes with friction. Because when Lexie Hull said, I love it here, but I'm not sure what's next, it wasn't bitterness, it was honesty, it was growth. It was a player learning that in today's WNBA, you can't stay quiet and still expect to be heard. The Fever's locker room might be under a microscope right now, but maybe that's exactly what they need. Light that forces truth, not just attention. And as for Lexie Hull, whether she stays in Indiana or takes her talents somewhere new, one thing's clear, She's already made her mark. Because sometimes you don't have to yell to make noise. You just have to tell the truth. This is her hoops, breaking down the stories behind the headlines. Drop your thoughts below. Was Lexie throwing shade or just speaking facts? Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust me, the Fever's off season, it's just getting started.